Charles Xavier built a school to protect mutant children, but desperation turns teachers into monsters. An extinction-level threat forces the world's most powerful telepath to abandon his morals completely. He sends his entire team through the agonizing Weapon X program, the same brutal project that coated Wolverine's skeleton in unbreakable metal. The procedure breaks minds and shatters bodies, bringing patients to the brink of death before their healing kicks in. Xavier knows the cost, and he pays it anyway to save humanity. These are the X-Men, transformed by adamantium upgrades, evolving from heroes into unstoppable biological weapons. September 14th, 2026 marks the day the mutant race runs out of options. A massive Sentinel armada blackens the sky over Genosha, equipped with technology that adapts to any standard mutant power. Traditional attacks fail instantly, and the machines slaughter thousands in minutes. Xavier watches the carnage through Cerebro, feeling every single death echo inside his mind. He realizes his dream of peaceful coexistence just died in the rubble. Survival requires weapons rather than diplomats. The professor accesses the encrypted Weapon X files, stolen from the Canadian government, understanding exactly what bonding superheated adamantium to human bone entails. The alloy burns at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, boiling blood and searing nerve endings. Without a healing factor, patients die screaming. Xavier prepares to inflict exactly this torture on the people he loves most. He synthesizes a temporary healing serum to keep his team alive through the nightmare, and the medical bays transform into a sterile factory of agony. One by one, the X-Men go under the knife. Pyotr Rasputin already possesses the ability to transform his cellular structure into dense osmium steel. This mutation grants him immense physical strength and near invulnerability against conventional firearms. Armor-piercing artillery can still dent him, which meant the incoming Sentinel forces calculated exactly how much kinetic force required to shatter his metallic form. Xavier selects Pyotr first for the adamantium protocol. Scientists graft liquid metal directly over his organic steel skin while he remains in his transformed state. The pain registers immediately. His metallic nerves scream as the unbreakable alloy fuses with his biological armor, and the process takes 14 agonizing hours to complete. Medical monitors flatline 3 separate times, while the temporary serum barely keeps his organs functioning under the intense thermal shock. Pyotr wakes up, strapped to a reinforced steel table, completely encased in a silver sheen. He tests his new body, and the lab floor cracks under his increased weight. He steps forward, feeling the heavy friction of his dual-layered existence. The results defy all metallurgical science. When Pyotr reverts to his human form, the adamantium vanishes into his genetic code, alongside his natural osmium. When he transforms back, the adamantium plates slide out and interlock perfectly over the organic steel base. He carries a double-layered defense system. The outer adamantium shell absorbs all kinetic impact, while his inner steel biology provides structural support. He becomes, quite literally, untouchable. A direct strike from a high-yield warhead might push him backward, but the blast cannot penetrate his skin. The heavy metal drastically increases his mass, letting him throw punches with force equivalent to a freight train. He walks directly through Sentinel energy beams without flinching. Pyotr abandons his defensive fighting style entirely. He simply marches into enemy lines and lets them break themselves against his unbreakable body. The gentle artist from Russia dies in that laboratory, and in his place stands a juggernaut who cannot feel pain, cannot be cut, and never stops moving forward. Scott Summers views his mutation as a curse. His eyes act as interdimensional portals to a universe composed entirely of kinetic energy, releasing devastating optic blasts the second he opens his eyelids. He relies entirely on a ruby quartz visor to hold the destructive force back. The physical vulnerability of this equipment creates a massive tactical weakness. A single well-placed strike shatters the visor, blinding him and forcing him to shut his eyes to prevent mass casualties. Xavier decides Scott needs a permanent technological upgrade, integrated directly into his skull. Surgeons bolt an advanced metallic casing directly onto his cheekbones and brow ridge, and the drilling process fractures his orbital bones multiple times. The temporary healing factor pieces the bone fragments back together around the metal screws. Scott bites through a leather strap as the hot adamantium pours into the cranial mounts, permanently fusing the device to his skeleton. He can never take it off again, and the visor becomes an unbreakable part of his face. The new visor never breaks under any circumstances. Xavier coats the interior housing with mirrored adamantium plating, which entirely changes how Scott channels his power. Instead of merely blocking the kinetic energy, the internal metal reflects the beam inward, hundreds of times before release. The energy compounds and squeezes through a micro aperture, transforming a scattered blast into an ultra-concentrated laser. The thermal output spikes massively. Scott fires a single shot, and the beam slices cleanly through 3 mountains in under a second. The focused recoil snaps his neck backward, but his newly adamantium-laced cervical spine absorbs the shockwave easily. His role as field commander ends completely, and Scott becomes a walking orbital strike cannon. He looks up at the massive Sentinel ships hovering in the atmosphere and simply blinks. The amplified red beam cuts the entire armada in half before the machines even register the attack. His precision reaches a microscopic level, allowing him to level a city block with a slight jaw movement. A huge thank you to everyone who left comments recently. This video would not exist without you, because we chose this adamantium topic straight from your suggestions. Please, write your ideas for future what-if videos down below. We will select the most liked comments for our next projects. Hit that like button and subscribe right now to catch all our weekly comic breakdowns. Aurora Monroe commands the atmosphere itself, bending weather patterns to her exact will. She conjures blizzards, summons lightning from clear skies, and generates localized tornadoes. Her mutant ability operates on a planetary scale, but her physical body remains entirely human. This biological limitation prevents her from utilizing her maximum power output. If she spins a hurricane too fast, the intense wind pressure and massive gravitational forces instantly crush her organs and snap her bones. She constantly holds back to survive her own storms. Xavier brings her into the surgical bay to eliminate this physical ceiling, and the adamantium bonding process proves especially brutal for her claustrophobia. Doctors trap her inside a sealed tank, while liquid metal pumps directly into her bone marrow. She thrashes against the restraints, generating indoor lightning strikes that blow out the laboratory monitors. The metal coats every bone, hardening her skeletal structure into an unbreakable cage. When the tank finally opens, Aurora steps out heavier, denser, and fundamentally altered. With unbreakable bones anchoring her body, Aurora stops holding back. She steps onto the battlefield and commands the atmosphere to completely unhinge. The winds accelerate past 400 miles per hour, creating a Category 10 hurricane that tears the Earth apart. The extreme G-forces rip the Sentinels to shreds, but Aurora stands completely unharmed in the dead center. Her adamantium skeleton refuses to buckle under the crushing atmospheric pressure, and she becomes a localized, natural disaster. She manipulates barometric pressure so violently that the sky turns black across the entire continent. Lightning strikes her directly, but the metallic alloy in her bones acts as a perfect superconductor. She absorbs 1 billion volts of electricity and redirects it outward in a massive omnidirectional shockwave. Enemy forces cannot even approach her location. The wind speed forms an impenetrable physical barrier around her, while she floats safely supported by her indestructible frame. She points her finger toward the remaining machines, flattening a steel fortress into dust. Kurt Wagner relies entirely on agility and stealth to survive combat. His teleportation ability lets him traverse spatial dimensions in a fraction of a second, leaving behind a distinct smell of brimstone. He strikes fast and fades into the shadows, frequently utilizing a pair of steel cutlasses to disarm opponents. His bone structure is highly flexible, perfect for acrobatics, but incredibly vulnerable to blunt force trauma. A single, heavy strike from a Sentinel crushes his ribs and grounds him permanently. Xavier decides Kurt needs biological weapons that travel with him through the teleportation portals. The medical team forces Kurt onto the operating table and isolates his hands, feet, and prehensile tail. They surgically implant adamantium housings into his forearms and shins. The liquid metal bonds to his skeleton, drastically increasing his weight and ruining his natural acrobatic balance. He wakes up screaming as 6 razor-sharp claws tear through the skin of his hands and feet. The pain mirrors Wolverine's daily torment, but Kurt lacks a natural healing factor to ease the suffering.
The physical weapons turn the gentle monk into a terrifying phantom. He possesses retractable adamantium claws on both hands and feet, alongside a heavy, razor-sharp metallic blade, fused permanently to the tip of his tail. He drops his swords forever, and his body becomes an arsenal. An enemy soldier blinks, and Kurt teleports directly behind them. Before the brimstone smoke even clears, his indestructible claws sever their weapons and armor simultaneously. His fighting style shifts from defensive fencing to brutal, instantaneous strikes. He teleports into midair, spinning his body to deliver a devastating tail whip that slices through heavy artillery vehicles like warm butter. The added weight of the metal actually increases his striking momentum as he exits a portal. He teleports 50 times in a single minute, leaving a trail of sliced metal and disabled machines in his wake. No defensive posture can stop him. He appears inside the enemy's shields, delivers a lethal strike with his hand claws, and vanishes. The enemy forces cannot track him, and they certainly cannot survive him. Remy LeBeau charges inanimate objects with kinetic energy, turning mundane items into volatile explosives. This detonation normally destroys the object because the kinetic release shatters its molecular bonds. Xavier identifies a clear scientific loophole. He orders custom-made playing cards, forged entirely from pure adamantium. They sit heavy in Remy's hands, cold and totally unyielding. He throws a glowing metal card at a reinforced bunker, and the adamantium impacts the steel and releases a massive shockwave. The explosion shatters the bunker entirely, but the card remains completely intact. It bounces off the rubble and explodes a second time. Remy throws 3 cards into a crowded hallway. The heavy discs bounce between the walls, detonating with maximum force upon every collision. They act like highly explosive pinballs that never lose their structural integrity. He clears an entire military compound using half a deck. He walks through the wreckage and picks up his undamaged cards. An enemy battalion approaches, and Remy just smiles, shuffling a deck that can level a mountain. Anna Marie possesses the most dangerous mutation on the team. Her skin absorbs the memories, skills, and superhuman abilities of anyone she touches. A prolonged physical connection permanently drains the victim, leaving them comatose. She always wears heavy gloves to protect her friends from accidental contact. Xavier realizes this absorption ability holds the key to the ultimate biological weapon. He calls Logan into the medical bay and issues a grim command. Anna must touch Wolverine and hold on until she permanently absorbs his healing factor, bone claws, and feral instincts. The power transfer forces both to their knees as Logan's mind temporarily empties into hers. Her vocal cords strain as 6 bone claws rip through her knuckles for the first time. Without hesitation, the mutant climbs onto the surgical table. With Logan's stolen healing factor surging through her veins, Anna easily survives the brutal adamantium bonding process that nearly killed the rest of the team. The liquid metal coats her newly acquired bone claws and fuses to her skeleton. Anna Marie stands up from the table as a completely perfect chimera. The mutant possesses Wolverine's indestructible skeleton, razor-sharp claws, and rapid cellular regeneration. Retaining her own ability to fly, she becomes an absolute nightmare for the machines. This form becomes a one-woman army, capable of dismantling a Sentinel dreadnought.
Launching into the sky, she flies directly toward the flagship. Conventional anti-aircraft fire hits her chest, but the adamantium ribs deflect bullets, while the stolen healing factor closes wounds instantly. Crashing through the armored hull, the hero extends her metal claws. Adamantium blades tear through the internal machinery, ignoring the electrical hazards. Encountering an enemy mutant means grabbing their face, stealing their powers to add to her arsenal. Operating as an unstoppable force, Anna combines Wolverine's raw brutality with aerial supremacy. Enhanced X-Men decimate the Sentinel armada in less than 48 hours. This extinction-level threat vanishes entirely, crushed beneath heavy metal fists and concentrated optic lasers. Humanity is safe, but the victory feels hollow inside the mansion. Charles wheels himself through the quiet halls, looking at the monsters he created. Physical upgrades saved billions of lives, but the psychological damage runs incredibly deep. Kurt spends hours sitting in the dark, staring at the metallic weapons permanently attached to his peaceful hands. Pyotr struggles to embrace his loved ones, constantly aware of the heavy steel plates hiding beneath his skin. Although the team survives the battle, they lose a massive piece of their humanity on that operating table. Their professor broke his most sacred vow. He viewed his students as weapons, and he forged them into instruments of absolute slaughter. Adamantium makes them physically unbreakable, but their trust in Charles Xavier shatters beyond repair. Silence in the mansion speaks louder than the bombs ever did. The brutal reality of the Adamantium Protocol proves that absolute power always demands a horrific price. Charles Xavier saved the world, but he destroyed the soul of the X-Men to do it. These unbreakable heroes highlight the dark lines a leader must cross when facing total extinction. From changing comic lore forever to inspiring endless debates, this scenario remains unforgettable. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more comic content like this every week, and I'll see you in the next one.